Hi, this is Ken Urban. Welcome to CSC 125. We're going to be adding a overloaded plus plus operator to the day class here. So I guess, well, here, let me show you what the idea is. The idea is right there, we just printed out a day. And this could be done differently, but so we have the day, we have tomorrow, and we can do D++, or we can do plus plus D, depending on how you like to do things. We'll talk about the difference a little bit. But that's what we want to do, right? Because the plus plus means increment, move to the next one. So for dates, moving to the next one makes a lot of sense. So let's look at that overloaded operator then, first off. We'll just do the D++ one first, for no particular reason. And just as a note, I've added some functions rather than you watching me write them. One of them called Boolean leap year, which will determine if the current date is a leap year, because we need to know if it's a leap year to move to the next day. And we also have one called int maximum days in the month, which tells the maximum number of days in the current month. If you want a quick glance at the code over here. Leap year has this divisible by 4 and not divisible by 100 or divisible by 400. And the maximum days of the month uses the Mother Goose poem, 30 days, half September, or whatever. So I'm using just kind of a switch statement on the current month. For September, April, June, and November, I'm returning 30. If it's a leap year, I'm returning 29. If it's not a leap year, I'm returning 28, right? So if the case is like 6, it'll go down here, hit the 6, hit this return, and then be done, not do any more. If the case is 2, it'll skip over those, hit the 2, check the leap year, return, be done, otherwise return 28. And if it's none of those, right, if it's all the rest, right, it'll just miss all of these, go down, find the default, and return 31. So this is kind of a short way of finding the number of days in the month. Those functions will help us figure out, right, the next day, because you need to know how many days are in the month, so you can go back to the first. You need to know if it's a leap year to figure out how many days in the month and such like that. So here's our D++. The code I have now, by putting in the D++, isn't going to work. Notice here it says no integer operator no operator plus plus int described for postfix plus plus. Right? If I put in plus plus D, try to compile it, I get a very similar error, but it says no match for operator plus plus in plus plus D. D plus plus and plus plus D are different functions. They kind of do different things. And we need to write them separately. In the member form, let me put them here, right? Because we have access to the day class, so we can put them in here. Now they all return a date class. Now I'll just put it in to remind myself. Right? The postfix version has this int argument, which is just a dummy argument. It's not actually used. It's only used to distinguish between the postfix form and the prefix form. And we're going to need to return different things based on whether we're using the postfix form or the prefix form. Remember that the postfix form is going to return the value before it increments it, and the prefix form is going to return the value after it increments it, right? Like the plus plus is after, so it happens after, or the plus plus is before, so it happens first. That's kind of the way of remembering it. So we're going to need to take that into consideration when we're writing these classes. The first thing we're going to do is put them in here, right? It's a member of the date class. It's called operator plus plus, right? The postfix form has a dummy integer argument. And if I end up with an extra closed thing there, let's see. And the prefix form doesn't have it. All right, let's test to make sure everything is working. We got all the pieces together. All right. Now it didn't, of course, work, but it's in there. And you know what? Let's put them both in there. All right, D++ and plus plus D. Right, now it should be 2 days later, right, since we have that here. Okay, so back into the code. Let's just do the prefix form first. The prefix form returns the date that's been changed. So let's change the date first. We'll put in the sort of logic to changing the date. If the day, if my day is less than, and the new function is called max days in the month. Right, I didn't need to put an object before because we want to work on the current object. So if my day is less than the max days in the month, well, then what do I do? Well, I can just add 1 to the day. Now, otherwise, right, if now in this case of the if, my day is, well, it's not less than, so it'd have to be equal to it. So if my month is less than 12, that's we have to do a couple things. So I need to split the braces here. Probably should put in the other one. My day becomes 1, and my month plus plus, right? So if it's not December, right, it becomes that. Otherwise, well, if that's not true and that's not true, we know we're December 31st. So my day becomes 1, my month becomes 1, and my year gets bumped up. And it's bothering me that I don't have squiggly braces here. So let me just fix it so it looks nice. Okay, right? So if we're not at the end of the month, we're going to add 1 to the day. If we're at the end of the month, but not the end of the year, we can add 1 to the day. We'll set the day to 1, move up a month. And otherwise, we have to be at the end of a month and the end of the year. So we go to January 1st and increment the year. I'm glad I said that out loud. And what do we want to do? We need to return something. Well, we want to return the date after it's incremented. So what do we return? We return star this, right? This is a pointer to the current object. Star says go to that pointer and do it. So this returns the current object. That's the way of saying return the current object. So we have one of them working, I believe. Let's see. We run it. We test it. Okay, so it bumped up one of them, and we know it's the one we did, not the one we didn't do. So now let's think about this postfix operator. We want to return the value that it was before the increment. So here's sort of an overview of it. I'm going to create a date called D, and I'm going to say D equals, here we go, let's star this, the current object. Then, at the end of this, I'm going to return D. Right? So, I'm taking the date, making a copy of the current date, and then I'm going to return the current date. Now, in here, I need to increment. Well, you know, actually, I've done that. So, I could just put star this. Now I can't put it after, I have to put it beforehand, plus plus star this, right, because this is a pointer to the current object, So star this is the current object. Now do that, or I could just call the function directly, which seems a little more reasonable to me. I'll just call operator plus plus, right? So we're just going to call this function down here, right? I like to have functions call each other, right? There's no argument in it, so it's going to call this one because we're in the date class. This returns a date, but we're going to ignore it because we don't need it. We made a copy of the current date, and then that's what we're going to return. Let's see what we got. Let me run this. And it bumped it up 2 days. And I'm going to leave it to you to see that I have the prefix and postfix and what they're returning done correctly. But one of the things is that now I only have one little hunk of code that does the incrementing, right? I have one function built on the other function. Okay. Thank you.